Welcome everybody, welcome back. If you've made it to this second lesson, then I must have hit a chord with you in the very first lesson when we talked about the great 401k scam, so I want to welcome you back. And today we're going to talk about 401k arbitrage and taking your plan to the next level. So if you do have a 401k, we can possibly correct some of those challenges you have. So this is a very fun lesson. We're finally going to get into a pretty simple strategy. And this lesson is also about an hour long, so just bear with me. Remember, you can pause at any time, come back to it and watch it, but make sure you watch it, even if you do not have a 401k plan. Let's get going. First of all, before we get started, remember these video lessons are no longer than I need them to make my point and ingrain my way of thinking into your mind. Now I'm going to try to, like I said, I'm going to try to keep them at an hour or less. This one's right about an hour. And also you can download the audio and listen to it on the road, from the airport, while you're working out, or whatever. During this lesson, I will be going back to the spreadsheet we opened up in the last lesson, so I'll try to say what I'm looking at so you can understand it if you are listening along or following along on audio. Be forewarned, as you progress through these lessons, a common theme is going to emerge that cannot be disputed. That theme is that in order to enjoy life more today, take full advantage of the laws that allow you to pocket more money, to get the best use out of these defined benefit plans, to truly build wealth, and to stop all that retirement planning insanity, you will absolutely positively have to start your own business. But to be very clear, this does not have to be a time-sucking, money-sucking, mega million-dollar business, folks. It just has to be a business where you're trying to make a profit. You know, in reality, it could even be an investment company where you're just managing your own investments. That could be a business. Every single lesson is going to have this theme, and you're going to make it, and you're complicating this. This is vitally important. Okay? Owning your own business changes all the rules into your favor. So, as I said, more on this subject as we progress. I am going to be bringing you so many different home business opportunities, your head will spin. And it's all going to range. Yes, there'll be some network marketing opportunities out there, but it doesn't stop there. There's going to be real solid foundational brick and mortar businesses. You will find something that suits you, that you don't have to spend a lot of time or money on. And in fact, I will do one-on-one sessions with you to find out what you're passionate about and to see how we can monetize that. But I don't want you to get caught up in that yet. I want you to understand that to build wealth, to build wealth, you're going to have to own your own business to take advantage of all the laws out there. And it's a lot easier than people make it out to be. I've done it my whole life. It's very simple. People complicate it so they can drag more money out of you. So, but for now, just focus on the lessons as they're presented to you and listen closely with an open mind. Now, in this lesson, I'm going to make a few assumptions. This lesson will not be for all of my students. Well, that's not true. Anyone that has considered trying to grow their money in the stock market through mutual funds will want to pay very close attention to. Look, what you're going to learn today really doesn't apply to if you don't have a 401k plan. However, you're going to want to pay attention because you're going to see a pattern, a theme emerge. Not to mention, you'll want to see it so that when you talk to people you know that are involved in a 401k, you can seem educated and get them to join this club. So please watch it, regardless of your situation right now. Now, there's 3 parts in today's short lesson. I say short, but it's an hour long. We've got many shorter lessons coming up. But anyway, in part 1, I'm going to talk to you why it's my strong opinion that the markets are going to be flat for many years to come. In part 2, we're going to talk about 401k arbitrage and how you can ensure the returns in your current plan, make it actually perform for you. And in part 3, we're going to talk about another option for you to consider. It's exactly what I would do, knowing what I believe is coming. So if you currently don't have a 401k, then I recommend you still watch this entire lesson. It's invaluable. I'm going to be sharing an important concept that will come in very handy later. Also, if you don't have a plan, I'm sure you know somebody that does. Do your best to refer your friends, family, neighbors, coworkers to this site. You'll find out why that is very important to all of us down the road. Suffice it to say, guys and gals, the bigger this club of like-minded people, the more you are going to benefit in the long run. Again, I'm getting ahead of myself. But basically, if you find these lessons valuable, then pass it on. These lessons are for free. I mean, if you find value, there's no doubt people that you run with, the people that, remember we talked about, we're pack animals, are going to find value in them also. All that being said, let's get started with part 1 of this lesson, why I believe the market will remain flat for many years to come. Now, a quick disclaimer, folks. These are only my opinions. As you know, I have no licenses. I cannot earn fees selling you any investments. But I can provide you with my opinions based on my experiences. What I'm doing here is kind of like doing a video blog. I'm kind of writing a book here. You can buy into my ideas and thoughts or leave them on the table. That's entirely up to you. But at the very least, you'll be exposed to a different perspective. Now, I assure you, all those men and women that make their living selling securities, mutual funds, bonds, etc., will strongly disagree with me, because it's in their best interest to have you believing that the markets are going to do what the markets do and always grow. I mean, after all, if you buy into my opinions, they cannot continue to earn commissions off of you, right? Well, last time I checked, Amendment 1 was still intact, although it was always being challenged lately. And I'm sure eventually it'll be overturned. It'll be stripped away from us too. But our right to free speech will eventually be stripped. But it isn't right now. I mean, basically we're quickly becoming a socialist country, a one-world government. It saddens me, but it's coming. If you can't see the writing on the wall, then you're not paying attention. Now that may appeal to you, but if it appeals to you, a socialist economy, then you haven't really thought things out. Anyway, that's just a quick rant, but let's move forward. Times are a-changin'. Alright, look. If you haven't noticed, society's evolving exponentially quicker. Things are changing quicker. The world is evolving. Okay? All those blue chip companies are now at the end of the road. You could go to any business courses and they talk about the life cycle of a business. Everything dies, even businesses. But those life cycles were quite long. But all you have to do is look around you. Because of technology and how exponentially faster we change, you can see these blue chips are struggling. Look at the car industry. Things are changing if they don't keep up with the times. Some of them already closed their doors. Some are close to bankrupt. Some won't last much longer. Look at the Yellow Pages. The Yellow Pages was a multi-billion-dollar business. Those fools didn't understand what business they were in. They thought they were in the advertising business. They didn't realize what business they were in. They were in the information providing business. They earned their revenue by selling advertisements. But they were in the information providing business. If they would have known that, they would be Google, or some powerful search engine. But they didn't figure it out until it was too late. Now you can go to yellowpages.com, and it's a shell. When was the last time you turned to the Yellow Pages? They still try to put them out on your porch, but no one looks to them unless you're in your 70s. Hostess just went out of business. And I miss my zingers. I used to love the devil food cake zingers. Boy, do I miss those things. But here's a long, stable company that's out of business. And this is happening over and over. In the last lesson, I talked about how just the benefits packages alone, these old benefits packages, are bankrupting these companies. Look at Apple Computer, guys. You don't have to look too far. Apple is the richest company in the world. But they're running out of ideas. Look what they're doing now to sell more iPhones and iPads. They keep putting little gimmicks on there, and the fools keep going out and buying the new upgraded version. For what? So they can talk to Sirius? Or they get a bigger screen or a skinnier phone? There's not much more they can do with these things. They're going to have to get innovative again. Google. What's the life expectancy of Google? We don't know because things change so quick. More and more, everything's going mobile now. We carry around little computers with us everywhere we go. Google's making adaptations, but who's going to come up with the next big plan? And Facebook. We'll get more into Facebook. Anyway, it's my belief that the lifespan of new businesses will be shorter and shorter, causing stock prices to rise and fall more rapidly. Stock prices go up as companies are emerging, getting stronger and stronger, and then they drop when they start losing revenue. It's that simple. Emerging markets. Look, you can invest in emerging markets. Different countries, different industries, small cap, large cap, but it's all still a bet. I mean, I've ran into so many people over the course of my adult life in this business that just think there's some kind of Wall Street investing whiz. And then I look at their portfolio and it's laughable. Of course, I don't laugh in their face. Nowadays I will, because I don't care anymore, because I'm old. I'll be 50 next week. No, I'll be 50 this Sunday. But anyway, I just don't care anymore. They think there's some kind of master at investing, and they'll study stocks. Well, there's S&P 500 dividends that aren't accounted for, or there's this, or there's that, or the fees are this or that, and they're still broke. They're making no headway. That doesn't include small cap or large cap. It doesn't matter, guys. It really doesn't. Even Obama, who is on a charge to push for alternative energy, has lost billions of taxpayers' money betting on emerging markets. A123, electric car battery manufacturer. He put $250 million of taxpayer money in that business, only to see it go bankrupt. He did the same with a solar energy company. And by the way, what gives him the right to invest our money in companies? I didn't know that was the government's in the government's mandate. You didn't get the chance to do due diligence, and we're relying on these people. Now I'm not just blaming Obama. All these presidents do this stuff. But they'll go out and sue people that bring investments that flop or go bankrupt. If I brought you an investment that went bankrupt, you guys would sue me. The government would sue me, call me a thief, throw me in jail. But the government does it all the time. Which goes back to me saying you guys got to start taking responsibility for your own actions. My point I'm trying to make here is you got Obama, the United States government, investing in emerging markets with their whole, teams and teams of people to do investigation for this stuff, and they still fail. It's a gamble at best. It's a bet. Baby boomers. 78 million Americans have started retiring that will last another 16 years. Okay? Look, when you're on a fixed income, you cannot tolerate the volatility of the markets. So most of these new retirees will liquidate their assets that are sitting in the market to put into fixed instruments such as bonds, CDs, or money markets. They understand they cannot get as much growth. Well, actually they can now. But they have to stop the bleeding. They can't, if the market drops 10%, that changes their whole retirement plan. Now, prior to 2000, many so-called financial planners tried to debunk this theory. Because this isn't my only theory. I'm not the only one that has this theory that the baby boomers retiring is going to shrink the markets. Excuse me. But but look, guys, based on the market performance of the last 12 years, what would you do? Again, we're humans. If you continue to see your 401k go up and down in value while you're in retirement, how quickly would you reach out to stop the roller coaster ride? Low flat returns are better than negative returns. You just can't do it when you're retired. You can't take that volatility anymore. Not to mention required minimum distributions. Remember, when you turn 70 and a half, you have to take money out. You have to liquidate assets, take the cash, pay taxes on it. Now, of course, they can turn around and put the money back in the markets, but wealthy people don't buy mutual funds anyway. They buy assets, which we're going to discuss in the next lesson. So the market, in my opinion, is going to contract for a lot more reasons. We'll go forward here. Not to mention the market is overvalued. That's why it makes corrections. And once again, it's overvalued, forcing readjustments. Look, currently the average price to earnings ratio in the S&P 500 is 12 to 1. Now that's an annual picture. What does that mean? It means if you invested $12, it would take 12 years to get your $12 back. That's not a very good return on your money. Facebook, and I shudder at Facebook. I think it's the biggest useless piece of crap on the planet. I think it's making our people brain dead. It's valued, when I wrote this slide, at 99 to 1. Meaning if you invest $1, if you invest in Facebook, it would take 99 years to get your money back. Who would do that? What sane, rational person would do that? Look, I got this cool little article. Let's see. Using Facebook's price to earnings ratio, Apple is worth $3.8 trillion. Okay, look. The current price to earnings ratio for Apple is 14.96. Meaning if you use what the market says Facebook's worth, Apple would be worth $3.82 trillion. When in reality, they're only worth about $573 billion. Microsoft would be worth $2.3 trillion. IBM would be worth $1.54 trillion. Google would be worth $1.07 trillion. HP would be worth $505 billion. This is how the markets work. There's no rationale to it. 99 to 1. But that's the whole market as a whole, so the markets have to contract. They have to adjust. Now, I'm going to probably rant and rave about Facebook many times over, guys, so if you're on Facebook, I apologize. It's the biggest crock I've ever seen in my life. Not to mention they're not making any money. Yeah, they're selling advertising, but they're not in the black yet. And besides, I've advertised on Facebook. It don't work. And these companies are going to find that out. So what's Facebook really worth? See, stocks are not bought based on companies any longer. If they were, who would buy one share of stock in Facebook? Even Apple, who was valued at whatever it was, 16 to 1. Why would you buy a stock in something that's overvalued? Because people don't buy stocks based on companies like the good old days. You know, stocks and how they're supposed to work, folks, when you come out with an initial public offer and you're supposed to come up with a value of the company, a true value of the company, come up with how many stocks you want to issue, and divide it. That's what you sell the stock for. If your company goes up in value, the stock should go up in value. If the company drops in value, the stock should drop in value. That's how it's supposed to work. That's simple economics. But that's not how our stock market works. And you know it. Because it's the largest casino in the world. Right? Today the market moves almost primarily on hunches and make quick buck syndrome. You got your day traders, mutual fund managers, buy and sell to take a profit. This is called gambling, guys. That's it. Go to Vegas. It's like roulette. You'd think you could have a 50-50 chance to win in roulette. You can bet on red or black. Forget the numbers, just I'll bet on red or black. The problem is you don't have a 50-50 chance because you got 2 green pegs. So your odds of winning are not 50-50. That's why casinos can never lose. Guess what the green pegs on Wall Street are? Commissions and broker fees. So there's not a 50-50 chance of winning on Wall Street. Then you got after-hour trading, and you got derivatives that changes the games. Derivatives are options, ways to hedge. That changes everything. And large players control the markets, not you. Look, you may subscribe to one of those newsletters out there. You know, they may have 10,000 subscribers, and then they make a recommendation on a stock to you. Don't you think that they went out and bought that stock before they made that recommendation? Why? Because they're betting on you guys buying that stock based on their recommendation, and when you start buying that stock, it's going to drive the value of the stock they bought cheaper up. That's their biggest motive for putting these newsletters out. Controlling markets. Just like Gordon Gekko in the movie Wall Street, controlling markets. And the big players do this. You're left out in the game. You're on the roller coaster. You're along for the ride. Even CEOs manipulate the truth to drive up the value of their stock. And they don't do it for stockholders. You see this in movies. They don't care a rat's about the stockholders. It's because they own large chunks of the stock themselves. So they try to drive it up, manipulate numbers and accounting to drive the stock up so they can cash out some of their holdings. And there's many guys in jail for doing that. Look, guys, you can win in Vegas. I'm sure some of you have won in Vegas, but over time, you're going to lose. And paper assets, there are paper assets and hard assets. Paper assets like Wall Street are always easier to manipulate. Guys, you might as well go to Vegas. Now, some people are going to argue the market is down due to our current recession. Well, first of all, the current recession didn't start until the end of 2008. And when I showed you that last lesson, you haven't had growth in your account since 2000. In fact, you've lost money over the last 12 years. So that blows that theory out of the water. Well, what is the magic pill that's going to turn this around, folks? I'm asking you. What's going to get this stock market strong? Is it going to be the current U.S. debt picture that has to be dealt with? And by the way, most of that debt is held by Americans. Is the stock market going to change because the current rate the Treasury is printing money? No. They're just printing it out like it's nothing. Is it going to be the fact that the government will have no choice other than to tax us more so they can pay off all of our past indulgences? If they're taxing us more, there's less money to invest. Even the politicians know that. They even preach that. Hey, how about this? We know the government has to do something, so is it the fact the government's going to have to cut spending? You don't raise taxes and cut spending to balance this budget? And if they cut spending, doesn't that throttle the economy even more? Of course it does. Or is it the fact that taxes are strangling the backbone of America, small businesses, brick and mortar businesses that hire people? Sorry about the phone. Look, what's the magic pill? You know that some people say that over 50% of all Americans don't even pay income taxes, and that over 20% of all Americans are reliant on some sort of entitlement: disability, welfare, food stamps, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Where is the money going to come from? You. And by the way, if the government does what they're considering, what's going to happen in the market? We talked about in the last lesson. They're bantering about this, forcing people with 401ks to invest in treasuries. That's their way of borrowing money so they can pay off debt. Then they manipulate the treasuries and they manipulate money. But if they force you to liquidate, to liquidate from the markets to go into U.S. treasuries, what's going to happen in the market? Again, it's speculation, but the whole damn mess is speculation. And what about capital gains? That's been a big issue in the election. The wealthy got to pay their share. Essentially what they're talking about is capital gains taxes, folks. Which right now is 15 or 20%, I don't even remember what it is. Where prior it was 40%. Long-term capital gains. Okay, well, if Obama or the president following Obama or whomever comes up and says, we're going to tax the wealthy on their fair share, in January or February or July of this year, capital gains taxes are going up to 40%. What do you think people are going to do that have money in the market that have been sitting in there longer than a year? They're going to cash out their money so they can pay a lower tax rates. What would you do? Again, guys, we do common sense planning here. And we do freedom planning. I'm just asking you to use some common sense. The markets, in my opinion, are going to remain flat. Now, I'm not saying that you cannot make money in the markets. See, I believe there are a lot of emerging companies that you can buy stock in and win. You know, the old-fashioned way, the way America was built, which has been stripped away from us too. Government, you know, you have to be an accredited investor to invest your money here or here or here. Why is it up to them where you invest your money? You know, the railroads were built by people going to private individuals like you and borrowing money and issuing stock. So it can be done. That's how America was built. But remember, because this lesson is about 401ks and you are limited to managed mutual funds, money market funds, and possibly company stock, you're not going to win. Get the notion out of your mind. Don't worry, I'm going to show you a little strategy today to fix some of this. But you may want to stop contributing, or maybe not. We'll see after this lesson. You're not going to win putting your money in managed mutual funds. They will not perform, in my opinion. Now, individual stocks and individual companies will, but not places like Facebook. When you're investing in a company, what's the value they bring? The only way Facebook can... What a scam. You know, I got a lot of friends in network marketing. And like I said, I'm going to introduce you to some opportunities there. I'm going to introduce you to a whole lot of different opportunities. But that's one that's easy. But that's not the point. My point is, Facebook won't allow network marketers to advertise. This is a company that built their whole company platform on people networking, getting their friends to sign up on Facebook, and then they slap ads in front of you so they can make money off of you. What a concept, huh? But I bet you in 1 year I could build a billion-person Facebook company just by sharing the revenue with the ads with all my users. Anyway, I digress again. Look, treasuries won't do it either. By the way, do you know the majority of U.S. debt is held by, yeah, you guessed it, Americans and U.S. companies? All this debt to China. It's mostly Americans and American companies that hold treasuries. So maybe that's why the G-men just don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Besides, in my opinion, when all this doom and gloom, the rest of, you know, you hear all this, oh, we're in trouble, we're in trouble. All these doom and gloomers, yeah, we're in trouble, but, the rest of the world cannot afford to see the U.S. fail. As the United States goes, so goes the world. It's not like Greece or Italy, guys. We are the consumers. If we failed, where's China going to go? Which, by the way, China's not booming like everyone thinks. They sell all their crap, and I do mean crap, to Americans. If we ain't buying, what happens to China? The majority of their population is dirt poor. Anyway, that's just another rant. So everything is not as gloomy as some would want you to believe. That's the big play today with the gold and silver. Look at the history of gold and silver. It's another bubble. Guys, be careful. I'm not saying don't invest in gold and silver, but don't think it's your savior. In fact, I think you should have some gold and silver. But we'll come back to that at some other lesson. Look, from time to time, guys, I'm going to invite you to live webinars where I'm going to have guest speakers on who are going to share investment opportunities with you. Big boy investment opportunities. Now, this doesn't mean I endorse them. I learned not to do that. You're going to be forced to do your own due diligence. Okay, but I'll do some before they even get invited. Okay? But the bottom line is, I am going to show you real big boy investment opportunities. I'm going to show you businesses that you can start. I'm going to help you start a business that you're passionate about, that's not going to suck up your time, money, or energy. This is the place you want to be. I don't care if you have $100 to invest or $100,000 or $500,000 to invest. Everyone deserves the same returns on their money. And I'm going to show you how to get those kind of returns safely. I can show you the safest place in the world to put money and you'll get a minimum 8% return. Safest place. Safer than just about anything, and you'll get 8% or better. But that's down the road. I'll show you places where it's easy to get 12% very safely. But it ain't mutual funds, and it ain't your 401k, unless it's your own company that holds the 401k and you make the rules. However, I will be sharing many old school, long-standing investment strategies with you that provide good returns with low risk. Just like I said, these opportunities are everywhere. This is where the big boys invest. And if everything goes as planned, you're going to see in Lesson 12 how you can participate regardless of your current situation. Okay? So keep watching the lessons. Alright, well there is just some minor points why I think the market's going to remain flat for the decades to come. You guys come to your own conclusions. But I think it's pretty apparent. We've seen what it's going to do over the last 12 years, and we'll look at it again in a moment. But you guys come up with your own conclusion. But that's enough for part one. Alright? Now, so there you go. I've shared some of my opinions why I believe the market will remain flat for a long time. Sure, you're going to see some upticks, just like we did in 2006 and 2007, but you better be very good at timing if you're going to play the market. Again, you draw your own conclusions. I will tell you that I strongly believe you will not make money investing in managed funds. During my planning years, I saw very few accounts with over $500,000 in them, and these are people that were hoarders. And most of these people were under the illusion that they received great returns until we did the math. And I showed them that most of the growth in their plans was from their own contributions and their employers' contributions, not growth on their money. I rarely saw any substantial accounts that people didn't make a ton of sacrifices to by putting their own money in it. Now, the largest accounts always had some kind of, and I'm not talking about 401ks, people with the most net worth always had some kind of real estate involved. However, there are many ways to invest in real estate that most people are not aware of, many passive ways. And again, I'll cover that in future lessons as well. Alright, let's move on to part two. Let's talk about 401k arbitrage, getting the most out of your current plan. Now, to do this, we'll be taking advantage of 401k loans. Now, be advised, not all plans allow loans. You're going to have to check with your administrator and get the rules and see if they even offer them. But here's some 401k loan essentials in general. First of all, you can borrow up to 50% or $50,000 of your balance, whichever is less. There's no credit check, quick release, you can get your money in days, and you may be charged a one-time fee to administer the loan, which is very insignificant. Now, this is important. You are charged an interest rate, which is typically current prime rate plus 1 or 2 points. So right now you may be charged about 5% to borrow from a 401k. But here's the kicker. All the interest you're charged goes back into your plan. It doesn't go to a banker's pocket, it goes back into your plan. So if you're being charged 5%, the 5% you're being charged goes back into your plan. It's your money. and you have up to 5 years to pay back the loans. Now, loans for a home down payment are the exception. I think you can stretch those out longer. There are always exceptions to every rules. The repayments are generally made by automatic payroll deduction. One of the big arguments against people taking out 401k loans by financial planners is, well, you're paying back the loans with after-tax money. And that's another myth I'm going to debunk in a moment. Now, this is important. If you do not repay the loan, it is considered a distribution, and you will be required to pay income taxes on the outstanding balance, plus a 10% penalty, with some exceptions, of course. If you quit your job or are fired, you must repay the outstanding balance, or it will be considered a distribution. So we'll come back to those two. All right. So let's make some assumptions first. First of all, I'm assuming that you're a typical American. Typical in that you finance cars, you have some credit card debt, you might want to go on a nice vacation once in a while. Maybe you need to finance some furniture, some household goods, or you have a need to borrow money for something, whatever that may be, maybe college, who knows. Okay? And I'm also assuming that the market will continue to perform as it has over the last decade. Not that it really matters, because we're going to ensure 8% growth in your plan here in a moment. So those are our assumptions. So let's go to the spreadsheet. Love my spreadsheets, don't I? Okay, we're going to go back to the 10-year plan. We're not going to look at the 30-year. Again, this is what the markets have done. The S&P 500 index has done over the last 10 years from June 2002 to May of 2012. Let's say that you have so we have no numbers in here right now. Now, just stay with me here. Let's say you have a beginning balance today of $50,000. Okay, and you're making a $500 a month contribution, and you're getting an employer match of $250 every single month. We'll also say that there's a 1.27% fee. With those numbers, your contributions will grow. If the market continues in the next decade similar to what it did in the past 10 years, it will grow to $146,462.68. That's an annualized return on your money of 0.41%. You only had $5,712 of growth. $140,750 of this money is what you put into the plan. If the market continues, so we already know that. We already covered this in the last lesson. That's not what's important. What I want to show you now, what number I need you to remember, is the $146,462.68. Let's just round it down. $146,000. Let's see what we can do to improve this. All right? As I said, I believe you're probably a typical American. And let's say you decide you want to buy a car, and most of us finance cars. In fact, when I'm done with you, you'll probably always finance cars. You won't pay cash. But anyway, I digress once again. So let's say you're going to buy, you have $50,000 in this plan, so you're going to buy a $25,000 car, but what you're going to do is take out a 401k loan for $25,000 to pay cash for the car. Now you got 5 years to pay it off, so our years is 5, and the interest rate we're going to charge ourselves, we don't care what the plan's charging us. We're going to charge ourselves 8% because that's typically what a car dealership is going to charge you. I don't care what you see in commercials. GMAC makes more money than General Motors. Ford Credit makes more money than Ford. Their credit companies make more because they'll either build it in the price of the car when they offer that 0% financing or whatever. They are going to make their interest. Besides, it's a lot of bait and switch. So let's say they're going to charge you 8%. So your monthly payment, if you bought a $25,000 car, you were charged 8% and it was amortized over 5 years. Your monthly payment would be $503.55. And let's say at the end of that 5 years, your car depreciated, but it was still worth $12,500, so 50% depreciation. And you're going to do this every 5 years. Now look what happens to your plan. Now your plan jumped up to $183,698. So we went from $145,000 or $146,000 to about $184,000. That's about a $40,000 swing in your plan just because you made this one minor adjustment. you use 401k loans to finance your cars? Because what you're doing is you're paying that $503.55 back into your plan every month. We didn't change these contributions, they stayed the same. You're still contributing your $500 monthly. Your employer's still matching you with $250, but instead of sending your $503.55 to General Motors or Ford Credit Union, you're sending it to your 401k plan, which part of it pays back your loan and part of it is extra money because they're probably charging you 5%, but you just ensured an 8% growth in your money. The only problem is it goes back into this crap, what the stock market's doing. And instead of turning your car in to knock down the price on your next car, you're going to take that depreciation, you're going to sell your car at the end of 5 years and dump that into your plan. So in reality, what you're really going to be at in 10 years, if you take that $12,500 and put that into your plan, okay, you're going to be at $195,000, over a $50,000 growth in your 401k because you used your plan to buy your cars every 5 years. You made the payment to your plan and you sold the car and put it back into your plan. Look, if you put your money in a fixed rate environment in your plan, something like tips, treasuries with inflation protection, your money would grow to, if you threw the other $12,000 in there, at 3%. If you just got a 3% return, you're going to be at $220,000. You went from $146,000 to $212,000 because you used your plan to buy your cars. Now, many of you may not have $50,000 sitting in your plan right now, so you can't borrow enough for the car. Because remember, you can only borrow 50% or $50,000, whichever's less. I don't care, guys. Let's use common sense. What if you have $5,000 in credit card debt? Could you borrow $5,000 from your plan? Let's do that. Now, we know your credit card debt's easily costing you 8%. Let's make it 10%. But you're probably making minimum monthly payments, but just pay your plan back $105.36. Your credit card's paid off in 10 years and your plan grows bigger. Or if you want to go on a vacation, instead of putting it on your credit card, use 401k arbitrage. Just be disciplined and make that payment back into your plan and don't change your contributions. Now, this does give you the flexibility, folks, that if you have a month where you can't make a payment, when one of those emergencies come up, the Super Bowl ticket came up, then you can skip a payment. Make it up later. You have that flexibility. Where with GMAC or Ford financing or your credit cards, you don't have that flexibility. This is freedom planning. Does everyone understand this? Now, I'm going to go back to the slideshow and tell you why some planners don't even talk about this. So let's debunk these naysayers, okay? See, traditional planners will tell you to never borrow money from your plan. You're robbing Peter to pay Paul. No, guys, we're not. We're getting to your money to pay for something you're going to buy anyway. And we're going to ensure the growth inside your plan and recover the cost of the purchase. Remember, if we bought that $25,000 car, we put $25,000 back in the plan. We recover the cost of the purchase, but our car still has some value. It depreciated 50%. It still is worth $12,500. That increased your net worth. Or traditional planners will tell you that you're paying back the loans with after-tax dollars, and that doesn't make sense. This tax planning crap is out of control. I got news for you. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you borrow money for any other purchase, cars, credit cards, whatever, aren't you paying those loans back with after-tax dollars? Of course you are. Traditional planners will tell you that you're losing the potential growth on the money you borrow. If you take $25,000 out of your plan and the market goes up 10%, you lost that 10%. Well, possibly, but you also avoid the losses, don't you? And it's the losses that kill you. If the market goes down 10%, you didn't lose $2,500 in your 25 grand. And you're ensuring the 8% return on your money. See, they always assume good market returns, which, well, you just haven't had. Remember, it's the losses that kill you. In this scenario, you're insuring an 8% growth in our example on your money. And if the market is performing good, the payments go back into your plan where it can pick up that growth. You talk about balancing. This is a very good method to balance, to ensure growth. And finally, and most importantly, you must consider the backdoor effect. It's a term that I've phrased. And I'm going to tell you a story here. Look, if you're paying 15% in credit card debt, that's money going out your back door. And I have a whole lesson on the backdoor effect coming up. That's money going out your back door. Wouldn't you need returns on your money higher than 15% to hurt you? Money coming in your front door? In other words, if you're paying 15% on a credit card debt and you borrow from your plan to pay that out, and the market would have to perform better than 15%. I had a lady once. I hired a young broker to work with me to go out and do my seminars on the road. And the first person he took me to was his mother. She was 62, I believe she was 62, and I may be a little bit off. He took me up there to talk to her. I went up there and said, she showed me her retirement. She had Social Security coming up, and she had $62,000. That's all she had for retirement, and it was an annuity, and that's not uncommon, guys. It was an annuity for $62,000. But she had $20,000 in credit card debt that she was paying 18% on. She asked me what to do. Well, I didn't even hesitate. I said, the first thing you do is you cash out $20,000 of that annuity and you pay off that credit card debt. And she almost had a stroke. She literally almost threw me out of the house. She said, are you out of your mind? What kind of planner are you? I said, I'm not a planner, I'm an educator. What kind of planner? Who would tell me to cash in my retirement to pay that off? I said, lady, the only retirement you have right now, if you continue this path, because she was only making the minimum monthly payments in the credit card debt. I said, the only retirement plan you have right now is Social Security. And I stood up, said, later. Now that kid went on to work with me. He tried to convince me. You understand what I'm saying? Why in God's name? Annuities only bring in about 2, 3, 4% a year. So she's bringing in 3%, but she's paying out 18%. Common sense. We're going to have a whole lesson on the backdoor effect. I'm going to show you how to manipulate stuff and really fix some problems you have. Now, before you do 401k arbitrage, you got to remember the caveats, all right? Again, if you quit or lose your job, you'll have to pay the loan back within 30 days or 60 days, or you're going to be liable for taxes, and if you're under 55 or 59 and a half, you'll be also liable for the 10% penalty. So if you're going to buy a car and you qualify for financing, then it helps anyway. In other words, if you lose your job, you can just go to your local bank or credit union and borrow money on the car to pay back your 401k loan. Or you can set aside enough of the loan for that contingency. In other words, set aside the taxability in case that happens. Or you're going to have to pay tax on the money anyway, so just suck it up and pay it. Now, all plans have different rules, so check with your administrator and contact me if you have any questions, or leave a comment below. And again, you must be disciplined and make the payments just as you would with any other lender. After all, this lender is the most important lender to you, one that has a true financial stake, because this lender is you. It'll be the easiest payment you ever make, but it's going to be the hardest payments too. It's the easiest because you're actually paying you. It's the hardest because you can get lazy about it. Because I told you, you can take a month off or whatever. Don't get that mentality. Make the payments. So that's 401k arbitrage. Pretty slick, wouldn't you agree? Did your planners that shared that with you? Have you ever heard anything like that? Don't you think you should be sharing this with your friends? All right, let's move to part 3. And this is simple. This is the roll your 401k out strategically and just bite the bullet. This is exactly what I would do if I had a 401k plan that was sponsored by an employer, not my own business 401k. Now remember, there is serious talk about the G-Man taking over these plans, forcing businesses to create retirement accounts for their employees, which causes more recessions because employers will have to lay people off or not hire, and forcing them into, of all things, worthless government treasuries. I don't know if this is going to happen, but it's been on the table for a few years. We know the government has to do something. And remember, there's over $1 trillion in back taxes due on these plans, and they can call it due anytime they want. Remember, you do not own your plan. In fact, now that the government's now calling your tax deductions subsidies. Oh, I love the way they talk. You don't know the rules to come. You only know today's rules. We went over all this in the last week's lesson. The government is in desperate need of an influx of money. They control your 401k plan and call the shots. They cannot do that if you have an O fund, E fund, F fund, and your own privatized retirement fund. And we'll talk more about these funds in the lesson in 5 days. So let me ask you a question. In the future, do you think tax rates will be lower, about the same, or higher? Well, the fact is, we don't know. But since we're all adults, let's use some freaking common sense. Look, there's only one way, and only one way the government can bring in more money to handle their spending problems and debt, and that's through taxation. Well, I guess there's a second way. They can actually print money, but that opens up a whole new can of worms, hyperinflation type stuff. But what they have on us is taxation. And guys, you guys are living in a bubble if all you focus on is income taxes. Because the majority of the government money comes from excise taxes, taxes on gas, taxes that are hidden from you, that are built into things you buy. Tickets, state government. Income tax only pays for their freaking welfare shit, state. According to Reagan did it, now this was decades ago, but had a study done, and it came out that all income tax did was pay for entitlements. All that other stuff gets paid through excise taxes. So you may see prices at the pump go up, and it's not the oil companies doing it. We don't know what's happening on those prices. There's a lot of that gallon of gas that goes to the government. So if you don't know what tax they're going to do in the future, I think it's probably a pretty good bet, or an assumption, that their income taxes will be higher in the future. So you might want to do a strategic rollout. You might want to bite the bullet and strategically roll out your 401k plan right now. Now, you will owe taxes on the withdrawal at your current rate. Now, you're going to strategically plan to keep your marginal tax bracket underneath current marginal rates. And you'll learn all about that in lesson 6, I believe, not 5. Because that's a very important topic that Americans have all wrong. Okay? I'm going to show you how to roll it out in the course of 2, 3, 4, 5 years to minimize your tax burden. Now, you're still going to owe a 10% penalty on top of the taxes if you're under 59.5, or 55 if you've left your employer. So if you withdraw $10,000 and you're in the 25% marginal tax bracket, you're going to owe $2,500 in income taxes plus a $1,000 penalty, leaving you a liquid value of $6,500 that you're going to put in your actively managed, controlled retirement fund, your R fund. Now keep in mind, guys, you're going to owe that $2,500 sooner or later, and more if the tax rates are higher. I'm sure that most of you would agree tax rates are going to be higher in the future. They could easily be 10% higher in the future. So there you go. And that's pretty likely in my opinion. Again, my opinion. So if so, then no matter what, you're better off today by rolling it out and taking control of your money and firing your business partner. I know this is hard to swallow for you. I'm not a financial planner, guys. I'm an educator. I'm a common sense guy. If I got 10 grand sitting there, and if I think taxes are going to be 10% higher in the future, what the hell does it what does it matter? Especially when I'm done showing you other places to put this money. That 10% penalty can be made up in 2 years if we can just get you an 8% return on your money, which you're not doing in your managed mutual funds. And I want you to take that money and put it in your O fund or your retirement fund, which you'll learn more about, as I said, in next week's lesson. I stumbled across this. I hate Facebook, as you can tell, with a passion. I'm rarely on it. I do have some fan pages just for promotion purposes. I'm not out. I don't care about people's. It's just not my thing. But I was doing some research and I found a post in Google from a widowed woman in her 50s talking about how desperate she was for money, got her husband's 401k, but was told she couldn't get to it without taxes and penalty. So this lady decided to continue to live like a pauper rather than pay the taxes and the penalty. What the hell is wrong with people? Do you realize that in any given year, your 401k can lose 10% of its value? You're worried about the 10% penalty, but you'll just bitch and moan if the stock market tanks 10%, which can happen and has happened many times over. What if it drops 10% in value and that's the year you decide you need to tap into it? What if that's the year you retire? Guys, sometimes you take the hits if it makes more sense for the bigger picture. People are so consumed with taxes and stuff, they just don't take the hit. Again, imagine if I can show you how to receive 8 to 10% on your money safely, and I can. You can recoup that 10% penalty in 2 years. Be liquid, forget about the government changing the rules, and take control of your money and life, which is what it comes down to. I need you guys to start taking control of your financial life. Now, if you're 55 or older, remember you're allowed to withdraw your money, pay taxes without the penalty if you're separated from your employer. So here's an idea. Quit or get fired. Or better yet, why don't you negotiate with your employer to become an independent consultant? Remember I said I want you all to start your own business anyway? Why not become an independent consultant, starting your own business? Okay? And you're going to be an independent consultant doing the exact same work for that employer as you're doing now. But now you're a independent contractor. So now you've been let go at 55, then you can roll out your 401k, roll it over to an IRA, which we'll talk about later. But remember, IRAs are government contracts too. Now your employer is going to save money because they don't have to pay the 7.5% wasted tax. You know, that Social Security tax? However, you're going to have the burden of paying 15% as opposed to 7.5%, but don't worry. Because now that you own a business, you're going to save taxes in scores of other ways, essentially giving yourself a raise. In fact, you all should be considering doing this if possible. Think about it. Now, as I said, I will discuss strategically rolling it out in Lesson 6, so just give it some thought for now. Now, I assure you, I would take this course of action if I owned a 401k plan or an IRA. Now, you can also look at the 72T rule, but this drags the process out way too long in my opinion. I like to see this thing rolled out in 5 years or less, but again, it's up to you. Now remember, these are strategies and alternatives I wanted to share with you. The decisions are yours. You know the reality. I don't have to show you spreadsheets to prove to you that your plan is a failure. You know it. You just won't own the fact. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So something to ponder. So why do we buy into this retirement plan in theory? To hoard money. Let it grow, albeit slowly, so we can spend it later. And then when later comes, we find out we don't have enough, so we continue to not spend it unless we absolutely have to. Look guys, the only reason to accumulate money is to spend it. Yet we're not doing that. See, while you let your money sit stagnant, not liquid in a 401k or an IRA, the two richest industries in the world do their best to keep their money liquid and to use other people's money. The financial institutions that provide you this stinking thinking advice also keep their money liquid, using other people's money, yours, to advance their companies. Everything they're telling you to do, they don't do. See, it's not the planner's fault though. I mean, who the heck do you think trained the planners? Hoarding money may make you a millionaire, but you will always be a hoarder. See, you need to learn how to velocitize your money. Regarding the employer match, you must maximize this match in my opinion. The problem is that the money is still going into these poor performing crappy plans, but hey, free money's free money. So use arbitrage, like I've shown you. If you're going to stay in these plans, so you can get this employer match, at least use arbitrage. Now I realize that the common myth that the match is a return on your money based on the match. In other words, a 50% match is a 50% return on your money. Again, this is a myth. Over time, this match will probably give you an effective return of about 2%. Or about 3/4% over the fees you're paying. So let's take a quick look at that. Back to the spreadsheet. You love my spreadsheet. Let's see. So we got, let's say you have a beginning balance, no beginning balance, but you're making $1,000 monthly contribution to your plan, and your employer's giving you 50% match, you're putting $500 into it. Over the last 10 years, it would have grown to $212,165.25. Is this the year one I want to be on? That's the question. It would have grown to $201,140.17. Now, without your employer match, your effective return on your money would have been 1.08% over that 10 years, again less than inflation. With the employer match, your effective return jumps to 5.519%. So yes, the employer match dramatically helped your returns. The free money helped, but you're still at 5.519%. What I'm saying is, if you can get more than 5.519% in the real world, even if you don't get the employer match, you'll beat the plan. Okay, we're at 201 here. Here's an 8% return on your money. This grew to 186 without the employer match, but we forgot to put something in this equation, didn't we? The 1.27% expense ratio. Expenses. Now your money grows to 188,549.75 with the 50% employer match. You're putting 100 in. Your employer's matching you $500 every single month for 10 years, in what the market did the last decade. Which, by the way, if we extrapolate that out over 30 years, we'll say that's $200,000. In 30 years, you're going to have $600,000. That's not enough. Okay, I digress, but let's get back to this. With your employer match, 50%, you're at 188,549. Down here, without your employer's match, if you could get 8% return on your money consistently, you're at 186,400. Then you're not handcuffed to a 401k. In other words, if you can get 8% or better in this scenario, even without the employer match, you'll do as good. So don't let the employer match handcuff you. What I would do is look at the big picture. Okay, see what their maximum match is, and then work backwards. And I'll be glad to help you. I'll be glad. I don't have time to go through all this in this video. By the way, these employer matches are going away and they're changing the rules. I don't know if you've heard this recently, but IBM has now decided, this is just IBM, but once IBM does it, I'm sure more companies will follow suit. They are only going to make the match once per year for their employees. Now think about that. It's still an employer match. It's still free money. But you're only getting it once a year, so you lose the growth of those 12 months prior to the deposit. And on top of that, they said if the employer quits or is fired during that year, they will not make the match. More and more employers are starting to put people on part-time basis so they can avoid all these benefits altogether. And with Obamacare coming out, you're going to see some wild changes. Companies cannot afford this stuff, guys. How about this? Instead of an employer match, why don't you just ask for a raise? And take the money, and I'll show you better places to park the money. In fact, in a later lesson, I'm going to show you a plan that's tax deferred. Distributions can be tax free. You'll get the compounding growth. It's liquid. No limits to contributions. Get flexible payments. It's self-fulfilling in case of disability or death, and more. Just one place. I mean, there's all kinds of things I can show you what to do with the money. Just ask for a raise. The only benefit to the employer, but they've been brainwashed too, is they can say, we have a 401k with a match. Well, how about this? Why don't you give me a raise of $500? Make it $400 because that's still tax deductible to you. And I know you got to pay that 7.5% because it's a raise. So make it $450 and we'll call it good. Now I know most employers are not going to do that, guys. Again, I'm trying to get you to think. But now you can take the same money and do something with it beneficial. Look, the only advantages of 401ks. Now I've bashed these plans, but there are 4 distinct advantages to employer-sponsored 401k plans. One, first and foremost, out of sight, out of mind. Because the money comes directly out of your paycheck, you don't feel it. It's an automated savings plan. But you can set that up with all kinds of different plans. 2, employer matching if it's available, but that does trap you. 3 401k loans if you're using arbitrage. 4 401ks and IRAs are sheltered from lawsuits until distribution, folks. Who gives a crap that they're sheltered? No one can get it. But the minute you start taking money from it, people can garnish your distributions. But I'll show you how to fix that later in a later lesson as well. And it's a bonus if your company offers a Roth plan, but you're still limited to those crappy investment opportunities. That being said, nothing, and I mean nothing in my opinion, is a better option than your own Roth 401k plan for your own business. Again, it's a subject we're going to dig deep into as you progress through these lessons. You're going to love it. So, you think this retirement planning is worth the sacrifice? You're going after your number? So you want to retire a millionaire? Let's take a look one last time to our spreadsheet. Let's go back to our 30-year plan and let's pretend for a moment that the market's going to perform like it did over the last 30 years. Let's say you have zero beginning balance, you're going to contribute $1,000 a month, and you're going to get a 50% employer match, $500 a month. Now, first of all, I want to point out that a $1,000 a month contribution to retirement, folks, that's a mortgage payment. That's a lot of money. Let's see how much money you would have in 30 years if the market performs like it did the last 30 years with that strong 20 years. Your money will grow to $1.88 million. Whoops, no it won't. I forgot to put in the fees. So let's put 1.27. Scroll back down here. Oh, now it dropped to 1.428. So we lost $460,000 to the Wall Street, but what do we care? Remember the last 12 years we have no growth at all, and the only reason this is bigger is because you're still contributing $1,000 a month here plus 500. Gets ugly, doesn't it? Alright, so you made it. There's your number, $1.4 million. Do you feel good? Well, I don't know, because if you're just starting now, you got 30 years ahead of you. So there's the $1.428 million that you saved, and assuming there's a 3% inflation rate in 30 years, that $1.4 million in today's dollars will be the same as $581,000. You're doing it all wrong by accumulating assets. You're not winning the game. That's not enough money in retirement, guys. If you pull out $50,000 a year, you're going to have 10 years. And after taxes, you're going to be living on $35,000 a year plus Social Security, which probably won't be there 30 years from now. Was it worth sacrificing $1,000 a month, every single month, for that? $581,000 in today's dollars, accounting inflation. If inflation stays at 3%, and as I said, the rate they're printing money, you can be looking at some hyperinflation. You can start looking at those 7 and 8% inflation rates again. I say no, but only you can judge that. Because there's better ways to do this planning. Because this isn't what we're after. We don't care to accumulate $1.4 million, as you're going to see in about 2 lessons, or 3 more lessons ahead. You're going to see the story of Homer and Dalton. Dalton, the traditional guy like you, and Homer being Homer Simpson. Lazy, beer-drinking fool that took my advice. And you're going to see exactly how it plays out when you start thinking, planning for freedom rather than retirement. Okay, I think we're about done here. So, quit aiming for the number, because the number's useless. Whew, that was fun. So that's it for lesson 2. Alright? Look, my goal is to just get you thinking. Think differently, outside the box. Start getting creative. Now, I hope I achieved that with your second lesson. Now, folks, you guys can see my style. I know I speak funny. I misspell words. I stutter. I stammer. I mispronounce words. But I know this stuff very well. I know I have lazy talk. I sound like I'm a southerner. I say words real lazy. I know. But I know this stuff. I hope I'm starting to build credibility. I hope I'm opening your eyes. If not, then I'm failing. But I'm using real numbers. Anyway, please leave a comment below or reach out to me anytime you want. Email me. You can call me. Now next week I'm going to be in 5 days. You'll get your next lesson in 5 days. I'm going to explain the true meaning of assets, and I'm going to show you the difference in what poor, middle class, and wealthy people buy on payday. And I'm going to dive deeper into the 4 quadrants, the different types of funds we need to create. So I think you're in for a great treat, and you're going to find this to be a great coaching club going forward. I mean, I'm really excited you're here. Welcome aboard again. Give 401k arbitrage some thought before taking action. Talk with your administrator first and foremost. If you have any questions, just reach out to me and I'll try to explain it in more detail. Until 5 days from now, you all take care of yourself. Please be safe. All right, and here's to your wealth and health. I'll see you in 5 days. Thanks. Bye.